Welcome to the Weekly Braaappp, the place to go for information on local and national off-road racing. We have some exciting stuff planned for this year, including guest interviews, season previews for OMRA cross country and GP racing, the Team Taurus Mega Crown Series, and some insight on the GNCC, WORCS, Enduro Crossing, and National Enduro Racing Series. Stay tuned to either Reid or Don's Facebook for more information and what we'll be talking about each week.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Weekly Braaappp. I'm Reid Brown.
I'm DM3.
Alright, so today we are going to be talking about the hangover scrambles, which, there's a lot of hangover scrambles that happen all over the country, but we're talking about the hangover scrambles put on by the Jones Creek Trail Riders Association and hosted at Washougal Motocross Park.
The infamous.
So this is kind of like your event. You didn't race it this year, but like this is a DM3 event. Why weren't you there?
I plead the fifth on that one.
Plead the fifth. He wasn't He wasn't a stud enough.
I was not.
So
no, I didn't have a bike this year, but I went there and supported people.
There you go.
I went and videoed and all that good stuff.
You were racing at heart.
Yeah.
Okay. So the unique thing about this race is that you're allowed to run studs in your tires, and
which I like.
Which you like, but
for some reason.
But at most OMRA events, at all OMRA events, which most of these people race that do the hangover, there are no studs. So this is like a really unique opportunity when the weather's crappy and the ground is frozen solid to get out there with studded tires and basically act like a pro for a day.
Yeah. Normally it's like either really, really icy. One year it was snow, like 6 inches of snow, and mud. I mean, normally, like, everybody prepares for mud.
Yeah, it's like a classic enduro. I mean, enduro conditions. You're talking about deepest mud, survival run, and the motos are only an hour long, but they're punishing.
Yeah.
And I remember one year it was like 6 inches of snow, and I was on my 200, and it was miserable. Yeah. But it was all right. I had grip heaters, but I was still not having a good time.
Yeah.
And that was when I was 13 years old.
Yeah.
But so this year's race was pretty cool. They got some fast guys from Washington that came down. A local pro vet motocrosser, a AA OMRA guy, and defending champion and enduro cross rider Keith Sweeten.
Yes.
So pretty good lineup of riders, I'd say. I mean, it usually draws quite a few people that don't normally race off-road, but these were some good off-road racers for sure.
Yeah, they, I know Donnie pretty well, and he really likes this race. Last year, he got the whole shot, and he was leading it for the first couple laps. But this year he got a pretty decent start. Got out front and started pushing it pretty hard. With Anthony Gibbs got kind of a mediocre top 10, 15 start. And those guys were pushing pretty good for the first couple laps.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know Donnie, that's Don Baseflug. He's a motocross guy from Washington, but he's really good at off-road. He's been on my 24-hour team the last couple of years, and he's done Erzberg twice. And
top American.
Yeah, top finishing American, so he's a great rider. Anthony Gibbs is the Team Taurus Mega Crown Series champion from 2011. And then Gage Johnson was the 4th place OMRA AA rider this year. Yeah. And then Keith, obviously, who we mentioned earlier.
Keith, it was Don, Anthony, and Keith there for a while. Keith had a bike problem, actually blew out the pipe, like a section of the pipe and everything, and kind of fell back a little bit, which Gage can capitalize on. But
for sure. So the finishing order was Anthony Gibbs, Don Baseflug, Gage Johnson, and then Keith Sweeten. And from what I remember, I remember Keith saying that he ended up getting the whole shot, but then ended up going backwards after that with his bike problem with his pipe. Yeah. So, anyways, it's a super historic event. I think it started out at Jones Creek, Washington, just outside of Camas.
Yeah.
And my dad's raced that a lot. I think Eric Hall, he used to own that race.
Wow.
And he's a local motocross legend guy. I mean, Albany, Mountain View Circuit, he's been doing that for years. And then went to Washougal. Had a couple years in Longview, Washington, I believe, and that was a disaster race. I mean, it was perfect for the race, but
I loved it.
It was brutal.
Yeah,
it was brutal. And then back to Washougal, which I think everybody's happy about. And
what's crazy about this is like the amateur line itself. I mean, there has to be 86 people. I think there was on one line. I mean, it is so wide.
Yeah, it's a lot like. It's a really unique race because they also do mass starts. So the expert wave is all one wave. The amateur wave is all one wave. And trying to fit that many people into a small hole is amazing. And it's really weird because a lot of people that don't race end up doing this, but it's amazing how good of starts they get. Yeah. I practice starts all year, and then I get beat out by Joey Novice, who's never done a start in his life, and then he just rips a whole shot, and it's okay. Anything can happen with that many guys on the line. It's
actually pretty neat. I like it. Everybody has studs. Hopefully nobody goes down and run them over. But
see, now I'll brag a little bit here. I've never worn studs at this race because I've always wanted to see like how.
See, now you're a stud.
I guess so. They need to have a studs don't use studs class.
There you go. So like I got there early in the morning, and like 8 o'clock was the very first like moto that they had, and it was like barely daylight out. And it was the women, it was the children, and the sportsmen.
And vintage.
In vintage. It was a big class even there.
Oh yeah.
And it was pretty cool. Like to see that many people out at 8 o'clock that morning.
Yep.
From the night of partying maybe or
whatever it is that you do on New Year's.
Yeah.
And I think and we'll talk about it a little later with our guests we're gonna have on later. But they've really lucked out with the weather this year. It sounds like, and I think. When it gets really muddy out there, the studs might not play as much of a factor, but when the ground is more dry and hard, I think it really shines through, like, wow, that guy's got a good setup. Because it's cool with this race because the preparation is just as much. Guys will buy those trailer board tires with the ice racing studs, or they'll do home jobs.
Sheet metal screws.
Yeah, sheet metal screws with like stuff on the inside of the tire so it doesn't puncture their tube.
Scott Autry,
he showed us the tire. Yeah.
Folks, see this video, you may have a couple limbs missing.
Nice! Look at that thing! What do you got built into that? What is it?
1032 self-tappers with nuts for backers. Lined with rubber spray.
Oh, man!
Jesus. So if you run over somebody, there's going to be a fatality.
I don't know, man. It could be dangerous.
Well, but are you going to be last, or are you going to be actually in a position to run over people?
I'm going to start last so I can run some fools over.
Yeah, he showed us the tire.
Yeah.
That was just, it was gnarly.
Yeah, it looked like he sprayed liquid rubber in it.
Yeah.
And it's, just all sorts of stuff. So it's kind of, it's a really cool event and stuff that people put a lot of time into. So with that, we'll take a quick break, and we'll be back with our guests to talk about the Hangover Scrambles. All right, welcome back to the Weekly Braaappp. We are lucky enough to have our first in-studio guest with us, the 2012 Hangover Women's Class champion. So we're joined by Courtney Taylor.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, glad you're here.
Yeah, we're glad you're here.
So, the Hangover Scramble, how'd your race go?
It was pretty good. I raced a women's class. I got the whole shot. And it was actually pretty interesting because at first I was really intimidated by the guy next to me. And on my left-hand side, I had a guy on a Suzuki. And he was totally decked out with all these, like, yellow gear, stickers all over his bike. And then I looked to my right and I have these little kids on little mini 50s next to me. And to them, I was like, you guys are going to be my greatest competition. They're like, what? And, like, the guy next to me, he didn't want to socialize with me anymore. So it was, like, really making me tense. And then once, they did a siren start. And, like, he originally got off the line first. And then I just hit another gear and I made it to the corner first, and then.
So you got the whole shot? Did
yeah.
Did you use studs or?
Yeah, I had a full studded front tire, and then the rear I only had the outer edges.
Okay.
Lined with studs.
So better for cornering.
Yeah.
So like what you ran into there sounds like was a typical Hangover Joey Novice. Like, oh, look at me, I'm pretty cool, I'm fast. I ride at the dunes mostly, but so.
Yeah, he was fast, and he definitely got me worked up.
Did you end up beating him, though, at the end?
Oh, yeah. Actually, probably about my 5th lap, I saw him completely turn around backwards.
Okay, so you lapped him. All right. Since the truth comes out, you don't have to be modest. You don't have to be modest on the Weekly Braaappp. We want the truth. This is hardcore journalism here.
Yeah.
So who was your main battle? Like, who did you battle with the most of the time?
Chris Conway.
Okay, real quick. So is this the same Chris Conway that was the 2011 cross country or Grand Prix champion?
Grand Prix champion.
AA champion.
Yeah.
Okay, so now
What was he on? What was he riding?
He was on a, what was it, a 490?
490 Mako.
Yeah.
490.
Okay, so he was in the vintage class, so
Mhm.
slightly inferior equipment to you.
But
Hello.
apparently, from what I've heard, it is his favorite bike.
Oh, she's calling you out, buddy. She's calling you out.
Just rumors have it. And then
What were you riding?
I was running my 200XC
That's a KTM, right?
KTM.
As you can see, we love KTMs on the show.
Yes.
Yep. And I mean, I have that thing lowered about 2 inches, and I have shaved seat. It has great suspension done by House of Horsepower,
Very
and
nice.
I love it.
Yeah, we also love Richard Wilson on the show, House of Horsepower. Check him out online. He's the best.
Definitely.
So, after you got the whole shot, and I think we have a couple of video clips of you going around the start there, it went down in the woods section. Was everybody on you, or was anybody pressuring you, or anything like that?
I mean, I could hear them behind me, but I mean, I accidentally took a wrong turn, as you guys also got footage of that.
Mhm.
And when I was going to turn around, when we went back to look at it, it turns out that I was more pressured by junior racers than anybody else.
So junior riders getting good starts.
Yeah.
And
Over the
racing.
guys on or the Suzuki guys.
Yeah,
Suzuki guy.
Yeah, I mean, I turned around and there's like all these little kids on like TTRs or littler bikes, like 80s to 125s.
Okay.
And then eventually, like right when you go to enter the fields, I got passed by a guy on a bigger bike.
Okay.
And then eventually I ended up, I think I was first overall up until maybe, I mean, I was battling out with Chris Conway almost the whole entire race.
Mhm.
But I ended up doing a few laps in front of everybody, which I was kind of blown away. But, I mean, it's probably the fastest I've ever pushed myself because I wanted to be there so bad.
So was that the first time you'd ever led a race overall?
Definitely.
Okay, so it's kind of like a new feeling. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, like I mentioned earlier, it sounded like the weather actually turned out to be not so bad, especially probably for the morning race. How was it?
It was really brisk because, you know, you have the wind, but other than that, it was starting to be beautiful. I mean, you still had a little bit of wet grass, but it dried up really well. The grass was perfect traction. You actually wanted to stay out of the mud and take the grass, which is kind of unusual. And then, I mean, the track conditions were great, but
For sure. Yeah, I think the wind really probably saved the day. I mean, we'd gotten so much rain in the Northwest that week leading up to, and everyone thought it was just going to be a muddy mess, but it sounds like it turned out pretty good. So
you finished first in women's and I believe third or fourth in the moto overall.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
congratulations.
very good. Yeah,
Is there-
congratulations.
Is there anybody you want to thank or sponsors or anything like that?
I'd like to thank my family members and my fiance.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What about shops? Do you have any like a home shop that's sponsoring you or anything like that?
Not currently.
All right.
All
So
right.
if word's out, we got a pretty fast women's racer who could use some support.
Sport right there.
Yep. Very good.
Well, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me again.
Woohoo!
Sweet. Sweet.
Perfect.
Good job, everybody. Nice job.